The Hawker Hurricane's origins lie in the rapid evolution of air power during the interwar period, as the Royal Air Force sought to transition from biplanes to modern monoplane fighters capable of defending Britain against emerging threats. By the early 1930s, nations such as Germany and Italy were beginning to rearm, and the appearance of sleek, fast monoplane designs like the Messerschmitt Bf 109 signaled a new era in aerial combat. The RAF, still largely equipped with biplanes such as the Gloucester Gauntlet and Hawker Fury, needed a modern fighter with greater speed, armament, and durability. In response, Hawker Aircraft, led by chief designer Sidney Cam, began work in 1934 on what would become the Hurricane, aiming to create a fighter that combined cutting-edge performance with construction techniques familiar to existing factories and crews. Cam's approach emphasized pragmatism. Rather than embracing radical technologies like stressed skin, all-metal structures, which would complicate mass production, he designed the Hurricane around a hybrid framework. Its fuselage featured a traditional Warren truss structure made from steel tubing and covered with fabric in the rear, while its wings and forward fuselage utilized lightweight metal skins and panels. This combination allowed the aircraft to achieve modern speeds and performance while still being relatively simple to build, repair, and maintain, traits that would prove invaluable during wartime. The aircraft was also designed to house the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, a liquid-cooled power plant that would become one of the most important engines of the war. Armament was another key innovation. The Air Ministry's specification F-36-34 required a fighter capable of carrying 8 303-inch Browning machine guns, a significant leap in firepower compared to earlier RAF fighters. This concentration of guns, mounted in the wings, would allow the Hurricane to deliver devastating bursts against enemy aircraft, a critical advantage as bombers became faster and more heavily built. The design also incorporated a wide-track, inward-retracting landing gear to provide stability during takeoff and landing, addressing one of the shortcomings of some earlier monoplane designs. The Hurricane's development was not without challenges. The transition from biplane to monoplane performance characteristics required careful refinement of the airframe, particularly in terms of aerodynamic efficiency and handling at higher speeds. Ensuring structural integrity while balancing the weight of the 8-gun armament and Merlin engine also pushed Hawker's design team to the limits of existing construction techniques. Yet, despite these hurdles, Cam's decision to retain proven manufacturing methods meant the Hurricane could be brought into production far faster than more revolutionary designs like the Supermarine Spitfire. By 1935, the first prototype was taking shape, representing a transitional step between the old and new generations of fighters. Though less glamorous and advanced than some contemporaries, the Hurricane promised to give the RAF a reliable, powerful, and easily produced interceptor. It would soon prove that its blend of practicality and performance was precisely what Britain needed as Europe edged closer to another major conflict, offering a dependable counter to the fast-approaching threat of modern air warfare. The prototype Hurricane, designated K5083, made its first flight on November 6, 1935, piloted by George Bullman at Brooklands. Early testing confirmed that Sidney Cam's pragmatic design approach had yielded a fighter capable of meeting the RAF's urgent needs. The prototype reached speeds of around 315 miles per hour, outpacing existing RAF biplanes by a significant margin, and marking a decisive step toward modern fighter performance. Its handling was generally stable, with a forgiving flight envelope that would later make it popular among less experienced pilots, though testers noted that its roll rate and high-speed control response lagged behind more advanced designs. Despite these limitations, the Air Ministry viewed the Hurricane as a crucial transitional fighter, one that could be manufactured rapidly and in large numbers. Flight trials revealed several areas requiring refinement before production. The original two-bladed fixed-pitch wooden propeller limited the aircraft's climb and acceleration, prompting the introduction of a variable-pitch, three-bladed propeller in later prototypes and early production models. Cooling issues with the Merlin C engine during extended climbs were addressed by refining the radiator installation and airflow design beneath the fuselage. Engineers also improved the canopy structure to enhance pilot visibility and made adjustments to the control linkages to reduce stiffness in the elevator at higher speeds. Testing also evaluated the Hurricane's 8-gun armament, a feature that significantly influenced its final configuration. The wing was reinforced to accommodate the weight and recoil of the Browning machine guns, and ammunition feeds were optimized to ensure reliability during rapid bursts. Firing trials demonstrated that the concentrated firepower could deliver lethal results against bomber formations, though dispersion patterns at long range prompted minor adjustments to the gun harmonization to improve accuracy in combat conditions. Despite the Spitfire's more advanced all-metal, stressed skin construction drawing considerable attention during this period, the Hurricane's simpler build and proven manufacturing techniques ensured it moved more swiftly toward production readiness. By mid-1936, Hawker had secured a production contract, and the aircraft was officially named Hurricane. Its adoption reflected the RAF's recognition that a large force of capable, if not cutting-edge fighters would be essential for national defense, particularly as rearmament efforts accelerated in response to Germany's growing Luftwaffe. The first production Hurricanes, designated MKY, incorporated improvements gleaned from testing, including the Merlin II engine, the variable pitch propeller, and minor aerodynamic refinements to reduce drag and improve top speed to over 325 miles per hour. These aircraft entered service beginning in late 1937, marking the RAF's transition into the era of monoplane fighters. While not as sleek or fast as the Spitfire, the Hurricane offered a robust and battle-ready platform that could be built quickly and maintained with relative ease, ensuring it would form the backbone of fighter command as Britain prepared for the mounting threat of war in Europe. The Hurricane entered frontline service with No. 111 Squadron at North Olt in December 1937, becoming the first monoplane fighter to equip an operational RAF unit. Its arrival marked a pivotal shift in Britain's air defense, as it replaced biplane fighters that were already outclassed by the rapidly modernizing Luftwaffe. Early squadron experience revealed the aircraft's distinct advantages. It was stable, easy to fly, and could deliver devastating firepower with its 8 Browning machine guns, making it highly effective against bombers. Pilots appreciated its forgiving handling, particularly during takeoffs and landings, a quality that would prove invaluable as more recruits transitioned to frontline service in the lead-up to war. By the time the Hurricane began equipping additional squadrons in 1938 and early 1939, the international situation had grown increasingly tense. Germany's expansionist policies and the unveiling of fast, heavily armed fighters like the Bf 109 underscored the RAF's need for a fighter that could hold its own in combat while being produced in large numbers. The Hurricane, while not as fast or modern in appearance as the Spitfire, was delivered to squadrons at a far greater rate due to its simpler construction and reliance on traditional building techniques familiar to British industry. This practicality ensured that, as war loomed, the RAF could field a sizable force capable of defending the British Isles and its overseas interests. The Hurricane's first combat experiences came during the opening stages of the Second World War, particularly in the so-called Phoney War period from late 1939 to early 1940. RAF Hurricanes patrolled the skies over France and the North Sea, engaging in occasional skirmishes with German reconnaissance aircraft. These early operations revealed both strengths and weaknesses. The Hurricane was robust, with its fabric and metal fuselage often absorbing damage that might down more delicate aircraft, but it struggled to match the speed and climb rate of the latest Bf 109Es, highlighting the need for tactical discipline when facing Germany's frontline fighters. During the Battle of France in May 1940, Hurricanes formed the bulk of the RAF's fighter presence on the continent. They provided crucial cover for retreating Allied forces and engaged Luftwaffe bombers and fighters in intense battles over Belgium and northern France. While often outperformed in one-on-one duels with Bf 109s, Hurricanes proved highly effective against German bombers, whose destruction was vital to slowing the Wehrmacht's advance. Many squadrons suffered heavy losses during these actions, but their efforts contributed to protecting the evacuation at Dunkirk, where Hurricanes flew continuous patrols to shield withdrawing troops from Luftwaffe attacks. Reactions from pilots and commanders during these early operational months were generally favorable, though tempered by recognition of the Hurricane's limitations. Its resilience, heavy armament, and steady flying qualities made it a dependable workhorse, but commanders understood it could not rely solely on speed or maneuverability to overcome Germany's cutting-edge fighters. These lessons shaped RAF tactics as the Hurricane transitioned from its baptism of fire in France to its more famous role in the defense of Britain, where it would prove indispensable despite the overshadowing presence of the Spitfire. The Hurricane assumed its most critical role during the Battle of Britain in the summer and autumn of 1940, forming the backbone of fighter command at a time when the Luftwaffe sought to cripple Britain's air defenses in preparation for invasion. Although the Spitfire often captured public attention as the sleek, modern face of the RAF, Hurricanes actually accounted for nearly two-thirds of fighter command's frontline strength. They flew the majority of sorties during the battle, engaging German bombers and their escorts in hundreds of sorties over southern England and the Channel. Their rugged construction, stability as a gun platform, and concentrated firepower made them particularly effective against the Heinkel He-101s, Dornier Do-17s, and Junkers Ju-88s that form the core of the Luftwaffe's bombing forces. Hurricane squadrons were frequently tasked with intercepting bombers, while the faster Spitfires often handled Bf-109 escorts. This division of labor allowed the Hurricane to exploit its strengths. Its steady handling and 8-gun armament were ideal for shredding bomber formations, while its sturdy frame allowed many damaged aircraft to return safely to base. Despite being slower and less agile than the Bf-109E, the Hurricane could hold its own in skilled hands, particularly when pilots used altitude, teamwork, and defensive tactics to compensate for performance disparities. The aircraft's forgiving nature and durability provided a vital margin of safety for the many hastily trained pilots who filled RAF squadrons during the height of the battle. Losses were heavy, but the Hurricane's ease of repair and relatively simple construction allowed damaged aircraft to be returned to service quickly, often within days. Maintenance crews could replace fabric panels and repair structural damage more readily than on more advanced all-metal fighters, a logistical advantage during the sustained tempo of operations. This resilience, combined with the aircraft's sheer numbers, ensured that fighter command could maintain operational strength despite the intensity of German attacks. The Hurricane's performance during the Battle of Britain earned it the respect of RAF commanders and pilots, even as it remained overshadowed by the Spitfire in popular perception. Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding and other leaders acknowledged that without the Hurricane's reliability and availability, Britain's air defenses might not have withstood the Luftwaffe's onslaught. Pilots who flew both fighters often noted that while the Spitfire was superior in speed and maneuverability, the Hurricane's stability in combat, ability to absorb punishment, and forgiving flight characteristics made it invaluable for sustained engagements against bomber formations. By the battle's end in October 1940, the Hurricane had proven itself as the workhorse of Britain's air defense. Though its design was already beginning to show its age compared to newer fighters, its contribution to the RAF's victory was indisputable. Having secured its place as a cornerstone of Britain's survival, the Hurricane would soon find new roles beyond home defense, adapting to the shifting demands of a global war as the RAF transitioned to more offensive operations. The Hurricane's role evolved rapidly after the Battle of Britain, as the RAF shifted from a defensive posture to conducting offensive and expeditionary operations across multiple theaters. Although increasingly outclassed by newer fighters like the Spitfire and Germany's upgraded Bf-109F, the Hurricane's reliability, versatility, and ease of maintenance ensured it remained a critical tool for the RAF through 1941 and beyond. On the home front, it continued to serve in night fighter and intruder roles, intercepting German bombers during the Blitz, and carrying out limited cross-channel raids. Its stable handling and robust airframe made it a dependable platform for missions that required endurance over sheer performance. Overseas, the Hurricane found a second life as the primary RAF fighter in the Middle East and North Africa. Its ability to operate from rough forward airstrips and endure harsh desert conditions made it well suited for campaigns in Libya and Egypt, where logistical simplicity was as important as speed. Hurricanes flew ground attack sorties against Axis supply lines and armor, strafed airfields, and engaged Italian and German aircraft in a theater where absolute performance was less decisive than tactical utility. The aircraft was adapted to carry bombs and additional fuel tanks, giving rise to the hurry bomber role that saw it striking ground targets while retaining enough agility to defend itself when necessary. In the Far East, the Hurricane became the RAF's mainstay during the desperate early months of the Pacific War, deployed to Malaya, Burma, and India. Though it struggled against the highly maneuverable Japanese A6M0 and Kai-43 Oscar, the Hurricane remained vital in delaying Japanese advances and providing fighter cover where few alternatives were available. Pilots relied on boom and zoom tactics and numerical coordination to counter more agile opponents, as the aircraft's rugged frame and armament allowed it to withstand combat conditions that might destroy lighter, less robust fighters. Despite its age relative to newer designs, the Hurricane adapted effectively to these diverse roles. Variants with tropical filters, improved Merlin engines, and modified armament kept the aircraft operationally viable in environments ranging from the desert to the jungles of Southeast Asia. Its forgiving flight characteristics made it ideal for pilots transitioning from training to combat, particularly in distant theaters where advanced aircraft like the Spitfire were not yet available in large numbers. By late 1942, the Hurricane had transitioned from being Britain's primary interceptor to a multi-role platform, flying reconnaissance, ground attack, and night defense missions across the globe. While newer fighters assumed the mantle of air superiority, the Hurricane's adaptability ensured it remained indispensable, serving wherever a rugged, reliable aircraft was needed. Its shift from a frontline fighter to a versatile workhorse reflected both the pace of technological change and the enduring value of a design built with practicality at its core. The Hurricane's evolution during the later war years produced a wide array of variants tailored to the diverse missions it had assumed. As the aircraft shifted away from frontline air superiority duties, engineers focused on adapting it for ground attack, reconnaissance, naval operations, and specialized support roles. The Hurricane Mk2 series, powered by progressively improved Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, became the foundation for most of these adaptations. The Mk-IEA and IIB increased armament, with the latter carrying 12.303 Browning machine guns, enhancing its effectiveness against soft ground targets and light vehicles. The Mk-IIC, fitted with four 20mm Hispano cannons, was designed for more destructive firepower, particularly useful in attacking armored targets and fortified positions. Ground attack conversions became increasingly common, leading to the development of the Hurrabomber variants. These aircraft could carry up to 500 pounds of bombs or later pairs of 40mm Vickers S cannons under the wings, enabling them to destroy tanks, trucks, and trains with devastating effect. These tank-busting Hurricanes played a significant role in the North African and Italian campaigns, often operating at low altitudes under heavy enemy fire to disrupt Axis logistics and armored advances. Their durability allowed them to absorb significant battle damage and return to base, reinforcing their reputation as reliable workhorses. Naval versions of the Hurricane, known as the Sea Hurricane, extended the type's utility to the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm. These aircraft were fitted with arrestor hooks and catapult spools, allowing them to operate from carriers and even merchant vessels converted into catapult-armed merchantmen, CAM ships. Sea Hurricanes provided vital convoy protection in the Atlantic, Arctic, and Mediterranean, intercepting long-range German bombers and reconnaissance aircraft that threatened Allied shipping. While never intended as a long-term naval fighter solution, they filled a critical gap until purpose-built carrier fighters like the Grumman Martlet and later Seafire became widely available. Reconnaissance versions of the Hurricane, equipped with cameras and additional fuel, conducted vital photo recon missions across Europe, North Africa, and Asia, gathering intelligence for bombing campaigns and ground offensives. Trainer variants were also introduced to prepare new pilots for combat, particularly in overseas theaters where the Hurricane's forgiving handling characteristics and ease of maintenance made it an ideal stepping stone for inexperienced aviators. International operators further diversified the Hurricane's roles. The Soviet Union received hundreds of Hurricanes through Lend-Lease, employing them primarily as ground attack aircraft and escorts, while Canada and other Commonwealth nations built and deployed Hurricanes for training, coastal defense, and combat operations. These adaptations ensured the Hurricane remained a globally relevant asset even as faster, more advanced aircraft began to dominate the skies. By the end of the war, the Hurricane existed in dozens of specialized configurations, reflecting a transformation from its original role as Britain's primary interceptor into a multi-role aircraft serving across land, sea, and air missions. Its variants demonstrated how a pragmatic, durable design could remain indispensable by evolving to meet changing battlefield demands, even as the pace of aviation technology threatened to leave it behind. By 1944 and 1945, the Hurricane had largely transitioned away from frontline fighter duties, yet it continued to serve in vital secondary and specialized roles across multiple theaters. While faster and more modern aircraft such as the Spitfire, Tempest, and American-built Mustangs now dominated air superiority missions, the Hurricane's adaptability ensured it remained operationally relevant. In Europe, Hurricanes flew primarily as ground attack aircraft and tactical support platforms, providing close air support for advancing Allied forces following the Normandy landings. Equipped with bombs, rockets, or 40mm cannons, these aircraft targeted German armor, supply convoys, and defensive positions, softening resistance ahead of infantry and armored thrusts. In the Mediterranean, Hurricanes remained active in the Balkans and Italy, where their ability to operate from rough forward airstrips and endure high sortie rates kept them valuable for interdiction missions. Squadrons used Hurribombers and cannon-arm variants to disrupt Axis retreat routes, destroy bridges and trains, and engage enemy vehicles, often flying at low altitudes under intense ground fire. Their robust construction and ease of repair allowed many damaged aircraft to be returned to service quickly, a key factor in theaters where logistics were stretched thin. Beyond Europe, the Hurricane retained a role in the Far East, particularly in Burma and India, where Spitfires and other advanced fighters were scarcer. There, Hurricanes provided close support for Allied ground offensives, strafing Japanese positions, escorting bombers, and conducting reconnaissance flights over dense jungles and mountainous terrain. While they remained vulnerable to Japanese fighters such as the Ki-84 and Ki-43, their versatility and ability to carry heavy ordnance made them indispensable in supporting ground campaigns aimed at reclaiming Southeast Asia. Specialized Hurricanes, including reconnaissance models, trainers, and naval sea Hurricanes, continued to fulfill roles where their reliability and straightforward maintenance were valued. In naval service, Sea Hurricanes flew convoy protection and patrol missions, though by late 1944 most had been phased out in favor of more capable carrier aircraft. Training units across the Commonwealth also relied on Hurricanes to prepare pilots for frontline fighters, leveraging the type's stable handling to transition new aviators into combat service safely. By the war's end, thousands of Hurricanes had been built, but most surviving examples were relegated to secondary duties, sold to Allied nations, or scrapped as newer aircraft supplanted them. Despite being overshadowed by the Spitfire in reputation and by late war fighters in performance, the Hurricane's enduring presence on the battlefield underscored its practicality. Its combination of ruggedness, adaptability, and ease of production ensured it remained a workhorse of the RAF and Commonwealth Air Arms until the final months of the conflict, completing a wartime career that spanned nearly every environment and mission type the Allies faced. After the Second World War, the Hurricane quickly receded from frontline service, yet its widespread distribution and adaptability ensured it remained active for several years in a variety of secondary roles and with foreign operators. As jet-powered fighters like the Gloucester Meteor and de Havilland Vampire began to define the post-war RAF, surviving Hurricanes were either sold, transferred, or reassigned to duties where their simplicity and durability remained useful. Many were converted into advanced trainers, target tugs, and liaison aircraft, with structural modifications to extend their service life in non-combat roles. Their straightforward construction and forgiving handling made them ideal for these purposes, particularly in Commonwealth nations where newer aircraft were not immediately available. Internationally, Hurricanes found prolonged use with air forces rebuilding after the war. Several Allied nations, including Canada, India, and various countries in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, acquired surplus Hurricanes through sales or as military aid. In some cases, these aircraft served as frontline fighters or ground attack platforms during regional conflicts, while in others they became training and patrol aircraft as local air forces transitioned to more modern fleets. Notably, some Hurricanes saw combat in post-war struggles, such as in the Middle East, where they were used by both Arab and Israeli forces during the turbulent years following 1945. Beyond active military service, the Hurricane became a platform for experimentation and utility work. A number of airframes were adapted for scientific research, weather observation, and even as drones or drone controllers during weapons testing in the late 1940s. These repurposed aircraft capitalized on the Hurricane's ruggedness and ease of modification, though by the early 1950s most had been retired or scrapped as spares grew scarce, and the demands of modern aviation surpassed the capabilities of piston engine fighters. Despite its relatively modest reputation compared to the Spitfire, the Hurricane emerged as a significant historical and cultural artifact in the post-war years. Many were preserved by museums and private collectors, becoming a central feature at air shows and commemorative events. Restorations, often pieced together from multiple surviving airframes, have kept the Hurricane in the air into the 21st century, allowing new generations to witness the aircraft that carried much of the RAF's burden during the early pivotal years of the war. The Hurricane's legacy is defined by its pragmatism and dependability rather than technological glamour. It may not have been the most advanced or fastest fighter of its era, but its contribution, spanning from the defense of Britain to far-flung theaters across Africa, Asia, and the Atlantic, was unmatched in scale and persistence. Today, preserved examples serve as tangible reminders of the aircraft's critical role in Allied air power, securing its place in aviation history as the reliable workhorse that often stood behind the headlines but bore much of the weight of victory. The Hawker Hurricane's legacy rests on its role as the dependable backbone of the RAF and Commonwealth Air Arms during the most critical years of the Second World War. While overshadowed in fame by the Supermarine Spitfire, the Hurricane was responsible for the majority of RAF victories during the Battle of Britain, and flew in nearly every major theater of the conflict, adapting to missions ranging from interception to ground attack and naval defense. Its design, though conservative compared to cutting-edge contemporaries, allowed it to be produced quickly, maintained with relative ease, and repaired under battlefield conditions, traits that made it indispensable as the war demanded both numbers and resilience. Over 14,500 Hurricanes were built, with production spanning Britain, Canada, and other Commonwealth nations. This output enabled the type to serve not only in the European and Mediterranean theaters but also in distant fronts, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of Burma. Its straightforward construction and forgiving flight characteristics made it a natural choice for export and for training roles in nations building or rebuilding their air forces even after the war. Countries such as Canada, India, and Finland continued to use Hurricanes in various capacities during the late 1940s, extending its operational life even as jet aircraft became the standard for frontline service. In terms of influence, the Hurricane underscored the value of pragmatic design during wartime. It demonstrated that an aircraft need not be the most advanced to be decisive. It simply needed to be reliable, adaptable, and available in sufficient numbers to meet operational demands. Lessons from its use informed later aircraft development, particularly in balancing manufacturability with combat performance, and in recognizing the enduring importance of ground attack and close support capabilities alongside air superiority. Culturally, the Hurricane became emblematic of the often unsung side of the RAF's wartime efforts. While the Spitfire captured the imagination as the sleek symbol of Britain's defiance, the Hurricane symbolized steadfastness and utility, a machine that bore the brunt of the fighting without the same glamour but with equal importance. Today, restored Hurricanes remain a fixture at air shows, museums, and commemorative flypasts, offering a living connection to the pilots and ground crews who relied on its dependable performance. The Hurricane's story reflects the broader truth of wartime aviation. Victory often depends not solely on innovation or prestige, but on practicality and perseverance. Though eclipsed in reputation by flashier designs, the Hurricane endures as one of the most consequential fighters of the Second World War, a testament to the effectiveness of a design built to fight a global conflict, survive punishing service, and adapt to the changing demands of war. Its continued preservation ensures that its pivotal role, often overlooked, remains firmly acknowledged in the annals of aviation history. After its military retirement, the Hawker Hurricane's historical importance and symbolism ensured that it avoided the near-total disappearance faced by many wartime aircraft. Though thousands were scrapped in the late 1940s as jet fighters replaced piston engine designs, a small but significant number were preserved by museums, collectors, and veterans groups, securing the aircraft's survival as a living artifact of the RAF's wartime resilience. These surviving examples, often assembled from recovered wrecks or rebuilt from composite parts, became focal points for commemorations, documentaries, and historical research, reinforcing the Hurricane's reputation as the RAF's steadfast workhorse. Many Hurricanes found their way into aviation museums across the Commonwealth, including the Royal Air Force Museum in London, the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum, and institutions in Australia and New Zealand. Others were meticulously restored to airworthy condition, where they continue to appear at air shows and memorial flypasts, their distinctive Merlin engine note serving as a direct sensory connection to the 1940 skies over Britain. These restored aircraft often fly alongside Spitfires and other contemporaries, offering the public a tangible comparison between the RAF's two principal fighters and ensuring that the Hurricane's quieter but no less critical legacy remains visible. The Hurricane's enduring appeal also lies in its broader service history. Beyond its fame in the Battle of Britain, it became a symbol of the global nature of the air war, having served in every major theater and with multiple allied nations. Restored examples often highlight this diversity, being repainted in historically accurate schemes, representing squadrons from the deserts of North Africa, the Russian front, or the jungles of Burma. This breadth of service has made the Hurricane a fixture in historical displays that emphasize the multinational dimensions of the Allied war effort. In addition to its preservation as a museum and flying exhibit, the Hurricane has been a frequent subject in wartime literature, films, and documentaries, where it is often portrayed as the unsung but essential counterpart to the Spitfire. This narrative has contributed to a growing recognition of its pivotal role in Allied success, balancing the public's understanding of Britain's air defense and offensive operations during the war. By the 21st century, the Hurricane has transcended its role as a mere artifact, becoming a symbol of perseverance and practical design in wartime aviation. Its ongoing presence in collections and air displays ensures that it remains part of the living memory of the Second World War. More than a relic, the Hurricane endures as a reminder that victory was secured not only by the most glamorous aircraft, but also by those built to be robust, adaptable, and available when they were needed most. The Hawker Hurricane's lasting legacy is defined by its role as the RAF's workhorse, a fighter that, while lacking the prestige of more advanced contemporaries, delivered results that were critical to Allied survival and eventual victory. Over 14,500 examples were built, serving in nearly every theater of the Second World War, from the defense of Britain's skies to offensive operations in North Africa, the Mediterranean, Eastern Europe, and the Far East. Its conservative construction, relying on methods that enabled rapid manufacturing and repair, allowed the RAF and its allies to field a fighter force in large numbers when time and production capacity were decisive factors. Without the Hurricane's availability and reliability, Britain's early war defense, particularly during the Battle of Britain, would have been far more precarious. Technologically, the Hurricane demonstrated the value of pragmatic engineering. While the Spitfire, Messerschmitt, Bf-109, and other advanced designs pushed the boundaries of performance, the Hurricane showed that an aircraft designed with manufacturability and adaptability in mind could sustain a war effort across multiple years and diverse combat environments. Its evolution into ground attack, naval, and reconnaissance variants reflected the strength of its airframe as a multi-role platform, ensuring it remained useful even as faster, more modern fighters replaced it in air superiority roles. Culturally and historically, the Hurricane's understated profile contributed to its image as the unsung hero of the RAF. Public fascination gravitated toward the sleek Spitfire, but historians and veterans have long acknowledged that the Hurricane shouldered the greater share of combat during critical campaigns. Its straightforward nature, forgiving flight characteristics, and ability to endure battle damage made it especially valuable for the many young, hastily trained pilots who entered combat in 1940 and beyond. Today, the Hurricane's significance is preserved through museums, flying restorations, and commemorative events across the globe. Airworthy examples, though rare, continue to fly at air shows, often alongside Spitfires, allowing audiences to appreciate firsthand the aircraft that bore much of the RAF's burden during the war's early years. Its continued presence in documentaries, books, and historical exhibitions reinforces its dual identity, as both a symbol of Britain's resilience and as a practical tool of global warfare. Ultimately, the Hurricane stands as a testament to the fact that victory in the air was not won by glamour alone, but by dependable, adaptable machines that could be built and fielded in numbers sufficient to meet the demands of a global conflict. Its contributions, often overshadowed in popular memory, remain indispensable to understanding the air war of the Second World War. Through its preservation and recognition, the Hurricane endures as a symbol of how practicality, resilience, and sheer availability can be as decisive as cutting-edge performance in the outcome of history's most pivotal battles.